Have the students connect the quote in their planners to our new grad value, loving at the intersection of intellectually distinguished. We want our students to recognize that scholasticism is incredibly important and actually should, in many ways, lead us to be that much more empathetic, but it often can sometimes preclude us from being more connected to one another. So, talking about how an opportunity to be well educated could actually provide us a lot of insights as to how to become better, more loving people if we take the time and intentionality to do something about it. We also want students to think about a proud moment that they have. So because it's Thursday, their Throwback Thursday. Before we get into the agenda for the day, have the students kind of model it. So Christine and PJ, you should both share your Throwback Thursdays, share a proud moment. For me, it was exposing my scar / running a 5K post knee surgery. So I included some pictures of me with some Loyola folks and folks from my old school. Model it, throw it into breakout rooms, have them do it for a couple minutes, bring them back, and then have some students share. Go over the agenda. We're going to tell them about the Examen. It's a prayer that we pray often during Advent and Lent, and it's a reflective prayer. So we're going to give them an opportunity to reflect on their last 3 days to see why. And this is a very bare bones Examen, so it's not supposed to take a ton of time. You'll notice it's 8 minutes. So give it a couple minutes per question, and then call it a day. After we've prayed, we're going to go over this quote. I think what's really important is to first start with, what does this quote even mean, right? And I love this idea of opens us up to the claims of others. We want students to recognize that storytelling helps us build empathy. And by building empathy, we're able to see where people are coming from, and also it helps us learn about ourselves. When I hear other people's stories, what I often do is I relate to them in some way. I find my connection to them. And if I don't quite connect, it opens me up to learning maybe a new facet of myself that I've never discovered. And so it's really important to be in community. And by creating that community, we're learning how each of us have unique things that we navigate and manage, but also that they're not entirely unique in the fact that everybody has things that they're going through and working through. Your choice to do breakout rooms, I would just say do a cold call and call it a day. Faith Crest, Loyola, talk about how we're going to discuss sort of who we are as a school, who is Loyola, and then invite you to think about who are you and who are you at Loyola. First, we want to start with this idea of a reflection. So, before coming to Loyola, what did it represent to you? What stories did you hear? What have you heard? Just have them, shout it out, raise their hand, whatever. And who did you hear it from, and what was their perspective, right? We're just getting them to sort of think about what is this Loyola and what has been represented, both good, bad, and ugly, right? And so what do we mean when we say representation, right? First, it's symbolism. What symbols do you think represent Loyola? A lot of students are going to say the L. A lot of people are going to say athletics. What is it that you were told, and how does that represent, right? It's relevant and powerful. We're going to do a quick exercise. Go ahead and maybe in the chat if you want. I think it's going to be easier in the chat. What is this symbol? You can easily recall these symbols because not only are it's branding, it's marketing, whatever, it's because these symbols have a deeper meaning. Like Target, what could the deeper symbolic meaning mean of this? Oh, that it's high quality goods for everyday use. Nike, I think first thing I think of is Just Do It. It's a luxury athletic wear band that's high quality products. Mac or Apple products, I think, innovation, efficiency, no viruses. Like these are the sort of the messages they're associated with these very strong and powerful symbols. So Loyola has many symbols too, and this is one of them. This is our faith crest. And our faith crest really represents who we are in many ways. And so we want to tell students that you are the newest symbols. Are the new symbol the newest in the story that is Loyola. So you are representational of Loyola, and we want students to recognize that, right? So what does that mean? To be a Loyola grad, to be a Loyola student? Well, let's first do some note taking. So have them look at, what do coat of arms or crests or shields represent? Give them an opportunity to write that down, CYY notebooks or journals or planners. And then what do they notice about our particular shield? Give them some time. Once you've given them time to reflect, tell them, when you come to Loyola's campus, our oldest version of the crest actually appears in our stained glass window. It's the entrance of Rupert Hall, and that was installed in 1926. So let's see if your guesses are correct. What did you notice / what do you think it represents? Great. Students mostly get the L represents Loyola. The blue and white striped field, they could probably figure out, means our school colors. But what's going on in below? Why are there, what animal is this? Good, wolves and a cauldron. What might that represent? See what they think, and then let's do an activity, right? So crimson and gold are the representative colors of the Onassis family, or cardinal and gold rather, and that's Ignatius's dad. There's a pretty horrible famine in the Basque Country, and Ignatius's family was so wealthy that they were able to not only feed themselves and their neighbors, but even the wolves. So it represented their long-term generosity. And I love this sort of, Spanish, because Basque is actually, the language is Euskera, but there's a lot of mixing going on. So in Spanish, the word for wolf is, ask the students, lobo, and the word for cauldron or pot is olla. So if you put it together, loboya, it's a portmanteau for Loyola. Like Pokemon is pocket monster, right? That's a portmanteau. It means that you put two words together and combine and make meaning. We want to do a quick activity, like, we're part of a larger network of Jesuit schools, and all Jesuit schools have these symbolic crests. How are they similar to Loyola's? How are they similar to one another? And how are they different? Notice that these are all Loyola's. Loyola Marymount, which is, in Westchester, Loyola University, which is in Chicago. These are all Loyola's. What's similar? We've got these color fields. We got the Loboyas. But then also what's different? You might notice that AMDG, which is very popular, is a popular symbol at Loyola, but not in our crest. IHS is another one. So we want students to recognize that they're not necessarily the same, but they have a lot of overlap. Then, and this is crucial, you're going to have students work on a faith crest presentation. You have fairly big classes, and there are 6 groups. So I would say you should have at least 4 or 5 per group, and tell them that they're going to be working on a slide. It's pretty self-explanatory. They can find that we've already targeted their research. They can also use Google, and in 15 minutes together, they're going to populate location, demographics, what is the mission of the school. They're going to describe the crest and its symbolism. Bullet point 2, they're going to put this crest here, and they're also going to compare and contrast, if they have time, Loyola's faith crest. Tell them to get rid of anything that's directions once they're done. What they really should have on the slide is this 1, 2, the picture of their symbol, and the special sauce. Give them 15 minutes to work on that in breakout rooms. Check in with them in breakout rooms. And then once they come back, have 1 or 2 students be the representative, do that presentation. So I'd stop sharing, I'd go back to the slide deck, and I'd share from here. Give them a bio break, applaud them. I would even say let them know how you're grading it. It's got to have all the information, but also it's got to be the presentation needs to be robust and well done, well executed. Once they've done their presentations, bio break, they come back. We're going to talk about this quote, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. We're going to do 2 exercises for the rest of the day, reviewing topics, 2 Ignatian words, consolation and desolation, and then making a crest of our own. So, what does this mean? Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Ask, does this happen in life in school? Why does this happen? And what can we do with this information? Are really just easy questions to ask if the conversation's going. And we want to make the connection that, sometimes it's hard to see the bigger picture when we're doing all the small things. So we're going to go over this idea of consolation and desolation, ask students what they think desolation means, give them an opportunity to, fill in the gaps, and then ask them in their CY1 planners to name 3 anxiety, stressors, or fears that they still might have about school. Please tell them that this is private, this is for them, so they don't have, no one else has to see this, not even myself, the instructor. We're not genius scanning this. Then consolation, give them an opportunity to maybe define it, then we'll define it for them. How do you seek help when confronted with these anxieties, stressors, or fears? Give them an opportunity to write that down. We want them to be proactive. And then we also want to remind them, you got into Loyola for a reason. You're talented. You were chosen. So when you are navigating moments of desolation, which will happen, that there is consolation in who you are and who God created you to be. And you've got a network of support, including us, the facilitators. I just want to say that when you don't do this in present mode, all you see is remember that you're talented. So make sure that you put it in present mode in order to see this. And because you're such a talented individual, we want you to have a visual reminder of who you are. And so we're actually going to make a crest of our own. So in your CY1 planners, we're going to start with this first quadrant. I want you to write down what kind of spirit do you bring to Loyola? What are some of the key traits that are associated with you, your talents, treasures, and tangibles? Maybe you're really organized. Maybe you are an incredible athlete. Maybe you are a talented actor, right? Whatever those things are, going to put that there. And we're also going to say this is where visually you'll put your initials. From the heart. In many ways, it emphasizes what drives you to be better. So who's your heart? Who's your community? I want you to write those people down. And this is where you're going to put your 6-word memoir. And then lastly, prax in Latin means daily practice. So in your connecting the dots assignment, you wrote down the habit that you want to form. So you're going to write that habit here. And then you're also going to add other things that you want to do to improve every day. So what are some things that you need to do? What are some practices and disciplines that you need? And then show them yours and go over it. So you'll see that I wrote KCP. I just didn't do K because that's what my friends affectionately call me, like Cantavius Caldwell Pope. I pick symbols that represent what I believe are my talents. I value my intellect, my empathy, and my openness to growth. I have a big heart for social justice and connections and relationships. So I put that here, my 6-word memoir. And then you'll notice I put 3 big habits that I'm going to work on this year, which is self-care, taking care of myself, not burning out, building relationships that last, and then also everything in its own time, really taking things in step by step. I can be fairly impatient, so it's a reminder to take deep breaths and know that it'll get done. So then you're going to give students the rest of the time, the rest of the class to work on this. Again, initials, 6-word memoir, habits, but they get to make it theirs. Notice that it's not just KCP, this, and one habit. I added to it to make it more my own. So I want students to do the same thing. And because this is independent work time, this is the last thing they'll do in class. When they're done and they've submitted, and if they're done and if they're submitted, they can leave. They can do this asynchronously. That's a choice that you can do. And that is day 4.